What's going on, y'all? We're back, and I'm about to tell y'all exactly how the UFC could go on a generational, yes, generational run in 2025. You know, Dana's always talking about how he wants to one-up the year before with the upcoming year. I'm going to show you exactly how you can do that, with the first step being, you can see it right here in the thumbnail. You can see it on this page right here. Islam versus Ilia is going to 100% be in this video. But let's get into it. If you haven't noticed already, I got a new mic. Let's get it. Starting off with UFC 316. 314 is already confirmed. We got Volkanovski versus Diego Lopez for the vacant title. And then we've got 315. Kind of looks like a stinker. We got Belal Muhammad defending against Jack Della Maddalena. UFC 316 is not official yet, but it's heavily rumored from what I'm seeing to be Merab versus O'Malley 2. A lot of hardcore fans out there are going to say that Sean O'Malley does not deserve this shot. I agree with you. Look, I do agree with you. But what are you going to do? Throw Petr Yan in there? A guy who got 50-45 against Merab in their first fight? I don't think so. And what? Yan's on a 2-fight win streak now? You might as well go with O'Malley. O'Malley, a guy who beat Petr Yan. I know, very questionable decision. I want to see them run it back in the future. But from the UFC's perspective, do you go Yan, Merab? Don't know how much pay-per-views that sells. Or do you go Merab versus O'Malley? A guy the UFC is really expecting to break out and to become a huge star who really hasn't. But they definitely want this dude as champion, especially with Ankalaev becoming the new light heavyweight champion. There's no real star power anymore. We're heading into the dark days of the UFC. We got the co-main event, Juliana Pena versus Kayla Harrison. I've seen rumors about this one as well. You know what? Let's throw a women's title fight at the co-main event. We don't want the stinker women's fights to headline pay-per-views, bro. We're done with that. We left that during COVID times. I don't want that anymore. Unless it's a super fight, you know, unless we really don't have anything to book, that's okay. But UFC 316, I believe it's taking place the first week of June in New Jersey. I think you do Merab Dvalishvili versus Sean O'Malley, and I honestly think that's what they're going to do. Moving on to the second card in June, International Fight Week, Islam Makhachev versus Ilia Topuria. If you've been on MMA Twitter, MMA social media, you've seen that Khamzat Chimaev's manager or friend, whatever he is, apparently leaked on a live stream on Instagram that Islam's going to be fighting Ilia Topuria as the main event of UFC 317. He didn't specify UFC 317. He kind of hinted at it though, with the co-main event being Dricus du Plessis defending against Khamzat Chimaev. Now, I don't know about y'all. This is a severely stacked card. Islam versus Ilia could main event a pay-per-view with 0 fights under it, and people would pay the $80. But they're adding Dricus and Khamzat, another fight that could sell pretty well, in my opinion, because Khamzat's a huge star, and they're putting it on the same card. Now, I don't mind it. I'm not expecting the rest of this card to be bangers. They might as well put the worst fights, go ahead and get them out of the way on this card. Because like I said, people are still going to pay for this pay-per-view. But guys, this is the fight to make. If Dana White actually confirms this fight, I'm going to be satisfied for the whole year. This is my number one most anticipated fight of the entire year, even more than Jones Aspinall, to be honest. This is such a legacy fight. Islam, one of the best fighters we've ever seen. Ilia Topuria is also one of the best fighters we've ever seen. I'm not saying he's the greatest. I think there's a difference between best and greatest. But when it comes to overall skill for skill, Islam versus Ilia is probably the best we've ever seen. This is going to take place at the T-Mobile Arena. Maybe I can go to this one too. I went to UFC 313. Don't know if I have 2 Vegas trips in me in 1 year. But I'd definitely love to. I would definitely love to. But this is the sickest card of the year. Moving on to UFC 318, another banger card. Jones versus Aspinall. Finally, we're finally getting the heavyweight clash between Tom Aspinall and John Jones. The long-awaited fight is happening, UFC 318. Maybe we could get a 4th of July event for John Jones. This could be the biggest heavyweight fight potentially of all time. So 316 is going to be in New Jersey. 317 is going to be in Vegas. Maybe 318 they stay in the USA. I was looking back on John Jones' previous fights. I don't think he's ever left the United States when he's fought. I really don't. Unless he did when he was a newcomer. I couldn't find any fights where he was out of the country. I'm expecting it to stay that way. You know how Dana glazes John Jones. He'll do whatever this man wants. So maybe we see them do an event in California, maybe a Salt Lake City. I'm not too sure. Maybe we go to Dallas or something like that. But Jones versus Aspinall needs to be made, or John Jones better retire. I do not want to see this man on a cover of any poster fighting anybody except for Tom Aspinall. The Alex Pereira fight should be long and gone, out of the window. But this is the sickest fight, like I said, you can make in heavyweight history. We got the co-man. We got Alexandre Pantoja defending his flyweight belt against Kai Kara Brantz. I think this is the fight to make in that division. People are pushing for a Manel Kape title shot. I think Kai Kara-France has earned his title shot. He knocked out Steve Erceg, a.k.a. Michael Scott, in the first round in his last fight. He's due. But once again, another sick card. This is where the UFC can go on a generational run. We got Islam versus Ilia. The very next pay-per-view, we get Jones, Aspinall. Let's move on to UFC 319. This one's going to be a little bit different, okay? No undisputed title shot, right? Max Holloway versus Dustin Poirier for the BMF title in New Orleans, Louisiana. And y'all can see the banger co-main event I cooked up as well. Kamaru Usman making his return. This man's finally coming back from podcasting. Bro's been doing anything but fighting. He's coming back fighting a very tough matchup in Joaquin Buckley. Look, guys, I really wanted to make this a whole BMF tournament. I made a whole separate video about that if y'all want to go check that out. But what better way to end Dustin Poirier's career than a banger BMF title fight against Max Holloway? I know these two have fought 2 times already, Dustin Poirier being 2-0. I don't think he'd mind running this one back. And I know Max Holloway would love to, kind of get a victory over the diamond. This would be a sick fight. You can sell these 2 stars as a pay-per-view with no undisputed gold on the line. Max Holloway, obviously a big star after UFC 300, even before that. And then everybody knows Dustin Poirier. Everybody that's a casual, anybody that knows what the UFC is, knows who Dustin Poirier is. Look, the UFC will occasionally throw pay-per-views out there with no undisputed gold on the line. Look, this is the way you can still do that. You can get the best of both. You can have the no undisputed title shot pay-per-view along with it being a banger event still. Let's bless the people of New Orleans. They've been through a lot recently. So let's go ahead and bless them with Dustin Poirier versus Max Holloway 3. All right, so now we're in August, I believe. They might have 2 events in July. I'm not too sure, but let's move on to UFC 320. It's got to happen, bro. We've been waiting for this fight for forever. This is a bold prediction because we're assuming Belal Muhammad already beat Jack Della Maddalena in this fight. So then we're going to get Belal versus Shavkat. I don't know about y'all. I'd much rather have Belal Muhammad as champion rather than Shavkat. I like both guys. I don't mind Shavkat at all, but this man fights every year and a half, bro. Do we want that as champion? No. Or you know what? Maybe we could get lucky. JDM chins Belal Muhammad. I don't think that's very likely. It could happen if he works on his takedown defense, but I'm assuming Belal Muhammad is going to pick up the victory right there. And I don't believe this main event would sell very well. That's why I gave it a banger co-main event. Arman Tsarukyan versus Charles Oliveira. The next number 1 contenders fight. 5-round fight. Both of these guys fought at UFC 300. Banger fight, by the way. Really close fight. The New Bronx fans out there were saying that Charles won that fight. He did not. But let's go ahead and settle it. Number 1 contenders fight. Dana's kind of upset with Arman right now. Look, let's settle the score. Let's make it right. Go beat Charles Oliveira in a 5-round fight. I think you could throw another banger fight on the undercard. Maybe like a MVP versus Prates to open up the main card. Something like that. I could see the UFC going somewhere random for this event. There's no way they do 4 or 5 United States cards in a row. I just don't believe it. This is the more realistic card. We can't have too many banger pay-per-views in a row, which this would still be sick to me. But let's move on to UFC 321. Big Ank versus Poatan 2. This is going to be around the October time frame. I'm expecting in October, like they always do, they're going to go to Abu Dhabi. So let's let Magomed Ankalaev headline his Abu Dhabi card against Alex Poatan Pereira. As you can see, the co-main event, we got Khamzat Chimaev again. Khamzat Chimaev is going to win the belt. He's going to beat Dracus du Plessis. That's my prediction. Although I do think DDP is getting counted out in this fight, I'm expecting Khamzat to win and defend. He said he wants to defend in Abu Dhabi. He wants to fight twice this year. So let's defend against Nasruddin Imavov, a former Dagestani. I think this man was born there, maybe grew up in France, or moved to France to train. Not too sure on his background, to be honest. But I think that's a banger fight. This man just knocked out Izzy. So I think he's the clear number 1 contender right now. But yeah, let's let Ankalaev and Pereira run it back. I rewatched the fight. I was there live, not to brag or anything. I was there live. I thought Ankalaev maybe won 4 rounds when I was watching it in person. But upon rewatching, there's an argument Pereira won. I don't think he did. I think Magomed won 3 rounds, but there were a couple close rounds in there. I think round 3, if I remember correctly, was super close. Maybe even round 5. But let's run the rematch. I think Poatan deserves it. He's done so much for the UFC. I think he had 3 title defenses. I think the name value, the title defenses, everything he's done for the UFC definitely deserves a title shot rematch. But yeah, I wouldn't be too surprised if Dana White and the UFC kind of push Ankalaev to make him fight before this. Just let Khamzat Chimaev headline the Abu Dhabi card. Would not be surprised at all if they make Ankalaev turn around quick as possible. But I'm going to put this on UFC 321, assuming this is the Abu Dhabi card. Let's go ahead and move on to UFC 322. It's going to happen, y'all. We're going to get one women's pay-per-view main event. And this one I'm actually okay with. Valentina Shevchenko versus Zhang Weili. This could be a pound-for-pound #1 women's fight right here. Weili moving up, trying to become double champ against Valentina Shevchenko. That's fine. That's fine with me. Look, I usually hate on women's MMA. I don't think it's very entertaining to me. I know that sometimes that can be. Don't get me wrong, but I don't enjoy it that much. But on the other hand, if Zhang Weili is fighting, I'm watching. She's a beast. She's a dog. Her and Rose Namajunas, I'm down to watch them any day of the week. But yeah, this is such a sick fight, and I do think if this fight gets booked, it's going to be a main event. And for the co-main event, I've got Umar Nurmagomedov versus Petr Yan. Listen, guys, you got to hear me out on this. You'll have to wait till the end of the video. But I have Umar versus Yan as an interim bantamweight title fight. Yes, you heard me correctly. First of all, this is a sick fight. But yes, this is an interim bantamweight title fight. Interim, what happened to Merab? Did he get hurt? Look, like I said, you'll have to stick around. I think it's the next card. It might be 2 from now, but just bear with me. Maybe the UFC flies out to Russia. Maybe they go travel somewhere else. I'm not sure what they're going to do. I don't have ties to the UFC like that. You know, I'll call Dana every once in a while, but I don't know anything about where they're going location-wise. But I know some of y'all are going to be upset I have a women's title fight here. Look, it is what it is. This is the best women's fight you could probably make right now. But let's move on to UFC 323. I believe we are in November now. Alexander the Great Volkanovski versus Merab Dvalishvili. Guys, this is a sleeper fight I've never heard anybody mention. I think this could be a fight of the year contender. So if you're wondering, why is Volk here? You know, why is Merab here? This fight doesn't make sense. Look, Volkanovski's going to go out there. He's going to beat Diego Lopez. I'm predicting Merab's going to beat Sean O'Malley again, sort of in the same fashion we saw the first time. And I think Merab's going to want to move up. Tell me you cannot picture this. Pantoja, you know, takes care of Kai Kara-France. I think he will. That's a tough fight, though. But if Pantoja were to take care of Kai Kara-France, he wants to move up, fight Merab. I could see Dana White just saying no. I do think Merab wins that fight, but I could see Dana White saying no. I could see Merab wanting to move up to featherweight. He's talked about it in the past when Alexandre Topuria, you know, kind of comes up the rankings. He's not really up in the rankings yet, but I could see this be a point in time where there's no real, you know, #1 contenders, or maybe he doesn't want to fight Umar again. I don't know. Merab versus Volk is a sick fight. Volk, please don't get chinned by Diego, bro. This is my one wish. If I could have one wish for the year of 2025, please don't let me see Volk get KO'd again. I'm begging, dude. I'm begging. But yeah, we got a banger co-main event as well. We got Volkanovski's boy, Israel Adesanya, against Sean Strickland for the second time. I know Izzy wants to take a little bit of time off after suffering a KO. This is plenty of time. What is this? So he fought in, what, February, I believe? February, March, all the way to November? I think that's plenty of time. And that also gives Sean Strickland, who also fought in February, time to recover from his broken nose. You know, he kind of took a beating from Dracus du Plessis. I think Izzy would accept this fight. I also know that Sean Strickland would accept this fight because he said in the past, you know, Izzy's an easy fight for him. Also, Israel Adesanya doesn't have to worry about the power coming back from Strickland. I know I got some balls saying that since this man Strickland dropped Izzy, but you know what I mean. I think this could be a great fight. If Izzy rights his wrong and defeats Sean Strickland in the rematch, that could do huge numbers for his legacy. And if not, it might be time for that boy Izzy to hang it up. But I think it'd be great to see Volkanovski and Izzy. I'm big fans of both of them. See both of them on the same exact card. I think this could be a great card too to travel somewhere, you know, maybe outside of the United States. But let's go ahead and wrap it up with the final pay-per-view of the year. Maybe they can do Madison Square Garden. I know sometimes MSG's in November. Let's do it in December this year, you know, for the final event of 2025. Ilia Topuria versus Justin Gaethje. Now, before y'all say anything thinking, you know, Ilia knocks out Islam, is that what you're saying? That's not what I'm saying. Whether Islam defeats Ilia or loses to Ilia, he's going up to welterweight after this fight. You know, I can see a world where if he loses a close fight to Ilia, maybe he wants a rematch. But I do think Islam is going to defeat Ilia Topuria, move up to welterweight, so this will be a vacant lightweight title fight. I know, man, this year's been crazy. Ilia Topuria is fighting for the vacant title against Justin Gaethje. Like y'all saw earlier, we have Charles versus Arman. That should be the next #1 contenders fight. I could so see this happening, bro. I could so see the UFC just pushing Justin Gaethje, throwing him out there like they did Dustin. Maybe an undeserving title shot, if you will. And I'm sorry to the Justin Gaethje fans out there. If this fight gets booked, man, Gaethje's going unconscious again. But we also have a banger co-main event, the fights that every hardcore UFC fan has wanted for years now. Sugar Sean O'Malley versus Corey Sandhagen. This is a striker's dream. Two lengthy, crafty strikers on the feet. Corey's got some ground skills as well. Corey's a very crafty vet, crafty vet, but that's a banger fight. I think this would be perfect for a Madison Square Garden card. Ilia Topuria is a superstar, and then, of course, Sean O'Malley they want him to be a superstar. He's close. He's not there yet, but he's close. But Ilia Topuria is going to bring in the international audience. Sean O'Malley is going to bring in the Nelk boys, the United States audience. Sean O'Malley is going to bring the frat boys watching, bro, with all their buddies. Nah, I'm kidding. I think this would still be a sick card to wrap up the year. Ilia Topuria versus Justin Gaethje for the vacant lightweight title. I expect Islam to move up to welterweight, maybe fight at the beginning of 2026, whoever's champion at that time. Now, whether or not he's going to fight Bilal Muhammad, I don't know. Maybe it's Shavkat, maybe it's JDM. But I don't think it's going to happen this year. I think we'll have to wait till 2026. Maybe even let Islam bulk up a little bit. But that's going to be it for me. Y'all let me know down in the comments your predictions for these fights. Let me know if I cooked with these fights. And also, go ahead and let Dana White know he should hire me as a matchmaker. But I appreciate y'all tuning in. Y'all go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe button. But we out.